Happy birthday, America. 250 years of existence. On this day, in 1776, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the delegates got together, First Continental Congress, to sign the Declaration of Independence, which states, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." But we know that the stark reality of it was that it was a progress. It was a progress from where we were, from where humanity basically was at the time. Most of the world was, governed by kings and popes and principalities and theocracies and all types of other governments that weren't democratic republics. And we were attempting an experiment in governance, an experiment in self-governance that wasn't tried since the end of the Roman Republic. We talked about the Roman Republic before on the channel. We talked about how Rome was initially was a kingdom governed by 6 kings initially. Sextus Tarquinius was the last of those kings. And then, thanks to a gentleman by the name of Cincinnatus, he helped overthrow and bring republicanism and the rule of law to the small city-state of Rome. And it remained that way until 44 BC. 44 BC, the death of one of Rome's greatest generals, Julius Caesar, at the hands of other senators, because Rome had this phobia where they feared going back to monarchy. So they didn't want to go back to monarchy because that was their origins. They started in monarchy 753 BC. We know that it's mythological, right? We know Romulus and Remus, the founders of Rome, are mythological. They weren't raised by a wolf and founding the city of Rome on the Palatine Hill in Italy. But we know that Rome had that history. So they didn't want to go back to that. So they feared that. So they murdered Julius Caesar. But here's the thing. Caesar's nephew, Octavian, later to be called Augustus, came to power. And he became the emperor of Rome. So Rome went from a republic to an empire. And then from there, the idea of republicanism outside of small pockets like the Netherlands and like San Marino in the Mediterranean, outside of those areas, republicanism wasn't known. But our founding fathers, they were George Washington, especially James Madison, especially Thomas Jefferson. They were students of history. They were students of ancient history, students of Roman history, students of Greek history, because we go into the concept of democracy. It goes back to the ancient Athenians and Cleisthenes. So they were students of this. But they wanted to figure out a way that you could keep that from happening, keep from happening what happened in Rome and in Greece Eventually, Greece became an empire, the Hellenistic Empire. Eventually, Rome became an empire, the Roman Empire. So they wanted to keep that from happening. So they stumbled upon an indigenous American civilization, an indigenous American group, the Hautestonis, aka the Iroquois Confederacy, which was a confederation of 5 tribes in upper New York. And they basically shared powers, and there was a series of checks and balances amongst them. So that's the kind of government eventually that the founding fathers, would design, because they wanted to get away from monarchy. And after it was over, a woman in Philadelphia, she asked Benjamin Franklin, she said, well, what do we have? And he says, a republic, ma'am, if you can keep it. And for the past 250 years, we've been struggling to keep it. And we've been struggling to enlarge it, okay? Because in 1776, the republic was only open, or voting rights, or enfranchisement was only open to land-owning whites. Then it got open to Andrew Jackson to all white men, then eventually to all men in general, and eventually to all women, and eventually to others. So that's the point. In our history, we've had these struggles. We've had the Civil War. We've had the Civil Rights Movement. We've had the Suffragette Movement. We've had all these other movements that we've talked a lot about on this channel in different various videos. And I find it very cool and ironic in a sense that and life is very poetic in that sense, that the American independence, the rebirth of the idea of republicanism, the idea of democracy in the modern world, was reborn in the month of July. Many people don't know this, but originally, the original calendar was only 10 months. This is why October is October. The prefix "oc" is 8. The prefix DC is 10. So it was originally 10 months, with December being the last month, right, in the original Roman calendar. Then Gregory the Great, he designs the Gregorian calendar, right, a pope of the Catholic Church, and he adds the month of July and the months of August, and these months are named for July, Julius Caesar, and Augustus Caesar, Octavian. So essentially, the man who destroyed republicanism, or was responsible, whose death was responsible for destroying republicanism in the ancient world, the month that was named in his honor is the month where it was born in the modern world. Okay? Other notable events besides the birth of the American Republic that happened on this day. I don't find it so ironic, or I don't find it so strange necessarily, but we are a Christian nation. Of course, we have a lot of Christian nationalists, in the government right now as we speak, especially the federal government. Pete Hegseth, Donald Trump, especially Pete Hegseth. He's somebody that I want to mention when it comes to this. Marco Rubio's another one, J.D. Vance, right? But on this day, this was not a good day for Crusaders. So the Neo-Crusaders better take note. On this day, July 4th, 1187, Saladin, known in Western history as Saladin, but known in the Muslim world as Salahuddin Ayyubi. Saladin takes back the city of Jerusalem from the Crusaders. The Crusaders had held it for over 80 years. They conquered the territory in 1099. The Council of Clermont, Pope Urban II launches the first crusade in Clermont in France in 1096. It takes them 3 years to go from Europe to Jerusalem. We talked before about the Crusades and the origins of the Crusades. But on this day, in 1187, the Battle of Hattin happens, and Salahuddin Ayyubi recaptures the city of Jerusalem. So I know folks that are pro-Palestinians, they're kind of hoping that happens, again, right? They're kind of hoping that, the results of the Six-Day War are reversed. The Six-Day War also, that happened in June. It happened in June of 1967, right? But so that's a famous thing that happened on this day. Another famous thing that happened on this day, and this is for the wrestling fans of my page, big American day, right? Big American holiday. The narcissist Lex Luger comes down, the USS Intrepid, right? A famous ship that was involved with D-Day. D-Day, June 6, 1944, the American troops, they land in Normandy in France to battle off the Nazis in Europe. But anyway, so there's this ship in New York Harbor, and Lex Luger body slams the champion at the time, Yokozuna. We talked about this one too. How I was, go back and look at my 1993 year in review video. How I was ecstatic. How I was a big Luger mark, right? I was a huge Luger mark at the time. I had the bendable toy, all that stuff. You know what I mean? So anyway, guys, happy 250 years of existence to the United States of America. Fly high, guys. Peace.